Hi everyone, this is Leonemy101, also known as Copycat Productions from YouTube. Today I'm going to show you how to create a form signature. This is also known as GFX Sig. It depends on what you really want to call it. So I'm going to use Photoshop. I don't use any other programs. But if you do use other programs, you might want to look up a different tutorial. So I'm going to start out with opening a brand new file. I use 380 by 160 for my average Sig size. You can go a little bigger. You don't want to go too big or it takes away from what you're creating, and you don't want people to see it as a giant mess, and you also don't want to go too small. So I'm going to open that, and then I'm going to open a render from my renders folder. I'm going to find a lot of renders. I get mine from planetrenders.com or .net, one of those. And I also look through DeviantArt, and yeah. So I'm going to open this, then bring it over to my file. I'm going to size it down to the size that I want. You don't want to look at it often when you're sizing down, so you get the proper size that you want. And when you think you've got it, hit OK. And then kind of put it where you feel like it's going to work. I'm going to center this one this time. I'm then going to take colors off of the characters. You can choose to go with a black background, but I'm going to use the colors. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer under my renders layer and change my bucket to gradient. And then just kind of, probably be good if I put it on the right layer. Throw that behind there. And then beforehand I'm going to take a regular white brush. I'm going to use my Galaxy brush because it's the one that I like the most. You can use regular stars, stripes, whatever you feel like. Make sure the brush is white so you can see it. Just kind of spread the stars around a little bit. Okay, I'm going to take my render layer and copy it 4 times. Then hide all the 4, then keep the original. I'm going to start off with the Smudge Tool. It's the little finger guy over here. If you don't see him, he's under the blur. And then I'm going to open my brush menu. If you don't have it over here, then go to Window, Brush, and up here. I'm going to take a default brush from Photoshop, 60, I don't know what it's called, Chalk 60 pixels. Make the size jitter up to 100, angle jitter up to 100, scatter, I usually range from 100 to 120, and obviously have smoothing on. So then, when I got that, I'm just going to smudge, then unhide the second one. I'm going to do the same, but I'm going to choose a different one. I'm going to up this a little bit, just kind of smudge more, smudge. I'm going to repeat one more time. And go ahead and use dots. And kind of change the way you smudge. That way it's not all the same. Okay. Now that's done, I'm going to take this, I'm going to go again with the smudge. I'm going to use these Spatter 14 pixels on the same thing. But this time I'm going to zoom in and only do it to the edges of my render. Just kind of go around. It doesn't have to be clean. Just kind of get around the render. See, I'm just gonna go over the rows. The rows isn't that needed. I'm gonna go back here quickly. Make sure you're kind of going outwards, not all around, like I probably did a little bit. Now that I have that done, I'm going to go ahead and take my last copy. Make sure this is up, my opacity is low, and kind of just go around the edges. If you need to, use a small brush. I need to. Just gonna go around the edges. You can ignore some of them. I'm just gonna go around. Do the same thing over here. Okay, now that that is done, I'm going to doing it again. Okay, now that that is done, I'm sorry if it shows that lagginess, it's the capture. I'm going to go ahead and go to Image, Apply Image. Then I'm going to go Filter, Render, or no, Filter, Distort, and Ripple. I'm going to just kind of mess with these settings. You don't want to go too high, and you don't want to go too low. I'm going to give it that effect. I'm going to take the brush again, or the eraser. I'm going to just go around on top of him, because you don't want him to be all distorted, and you don't want her either, so just kind of go over your render. And then going to new layer, apply. Okay. This time I'm going to filter, Pixelate Mosaic. I'm just gonna play with the there and two, and this time I'm soft lighting it, and I'm bringing it down to about 70%. I'm gonna erase on their faces, and you'll notice the difference if you hide the layer and unhide it. And then I'm gonna open one of my C4Ds. This is completely optional. You don't have to do this. I do it. I'm probably gonna delete it anyway. I'm not gonna go over C4Ds. It's not what this tutorial is about, and I'm not an expert on them. So now that I got a C4D that I like, I'm going to erase what's on top of her, because I don't want it there, and on top of him. And it kind of gives those little shines. Then I'm going to Image, Apply Image, and then Filter, Render, Lighting Effects. Just play around with your effects. You can do a bunch of different ones. I'm going to use Crossing Down this time, and kind of aim at their face, I guess. You can definitely change how far the light is if you need to. Don't hesitate to play with how these come out. So now that I got what I like, actually I don't like that, so I'm going to redo it. Just keep playing around. Don't stop just because you think it's good. Feel free to always play around. It's a lot better. Even though it gets darker, it's going to get a lot better. So now that I have the lighting effect on, I'm going to take a regular dot brush, definitely size it down. I'm going to add my same scatter, it doesn't really matter with angle, you're using a round brush. Scatter, make sure it's high. I'm going to use transfer as well. But my scatter, you don't want it to be too much, because you don't want it to go all over the place. Just kind of play with it until you get to one you like. And then my maximum jitter will up it, and then kind of make a new layer, make sure it's white. Just kind of click a little bit. I'm just clicking because of the scatter. It's gonna kind of go around a little bit. If it gets onto the character, just erase the dot. Okay, hide the layer, then create another new layer and apply the image. Then unhide your dots and set the dot brush layer to hard light. Now with this applied image, this is going to be called creating a clipping mask. Basically right click, create clipping mask, and it looks like nothing's happened at all. But if you move it, you'll see it looks like there's a mirror. So I'm going to take that, then I'm going to duplicate it just so I can get it over here too. And when I have all my little dots settled, I'm going to go ahead and this little half Oreo cookie, I'm going to go to gradient map, and it's kind of ugly, so I'm going to put it on my purple to orange gradient, and I'm going to hit soft light, and you can already see the change just by the colors. I'm going to lower it about 75, 80. There's still the change. Then add another gradient map, and this one just throw random one on there. You don't have to do anything with it yet. I'm going to set it on color dodge and put it about 20%. You can also kind of mess with it until you get a look you like. You don't want to use two soft lights. I'm going to leave mine on color dodge. But then I'm going to take that and I'm just going to look at all the other ones. You also don't have to use these, you can create your own. Don't hesitate. Just don't use the same one over. Then once you got your two gradient maps, I'm going to go back to the Oreo, go to brightness and contrast. This one, you just want to play around with it as well. I usually go, if I go one way on one, I'll go the other, because it looks too bright, and this one just kind of looks blah. So, kind of went the other ways. This time I'm going to go new, apply image. Then I'm going to go to filter, sharpen, sharpen more. And you'll already notice that it does look less blurry, which is pretty good, but not what you want. So you're going to take that and just kind of play around with your effects. I usually go lighten on this because it gives that shiny effect. Just kind of down the opacity just a smidge, and you can tell the difference just by hiding and unhiding the layer. And then you can continue playing around. Just always apply images when you do this. Always apply the image, just in case if you change your mind and feel like going back. This time I added a motion blur to it. It's very subtle because I lowered the opacity. If you noticed, it can get really blurry. I lower the opacity about 15%. And when I'm finished, I'm going to apply the image once more, just so I have a set. I'm going to add my borders to it since I feel rather lazy. I'm not going to go fancy smancy with the border. I'm just going to grab a color that I seem to like. and then kind of go edit stroke. And with your text, you don't have to add text to your signature. I'm going to do it for this. And oops. I'm just going to play with your effects. Again, always play around. Don't hesitate to not. And when you're satisfied with your text, and you're satisfied with your signature, you need to go ahead and then save it. And that's basically all you have to do, really. This is a quick, simple, short, sweet, to the point. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave a comment or send me a private message. I will answer and help as the best as I can. And if I do happen to make another tutorial, it'll be with my old style of using smudge and textures with the filters. If you have any questions about C4D, I'm not the person you want to come to. I suck at C4D. I've never really understood it, but if you can figure it out, congrats to you. If not, you're in my boat. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe if you want to keep in touch with any tutorials or even artwork. Thanks.